Welcome to the Rocky Mountain AI Interest Group. The following presentation, entitled Tips and Tools for Thriving in an AI-Paced World, took place on December 11, 2023 at the Atlas Building on the CU Boulder campus.
I'm a futurist for TCS, and so we work with large enterprise businesses. And I spend my time kind of looking out towards the horizon at all of the things that are going on in science and technology, economics, geopolitical issues, etc., and try and help our clients understand and plot a way forward. And as you can imagine, over the past year, it's been, very focused on artificial intelligence. And so I want to do is just kind of help create
a mindset and a framework for how to think about AI. I think it's really difficult to make predictions about the future and where the future is going because, things are so complex, they're moving so fast, that just becomes really difficult. But if we can create a framework, that will help us start to understand it. So this kind of sums up the problem for us, right? It's that the illiterate of the 21st century aren't going to be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn, and do that over and over again, throughout our careers, throughout our lives. And that's easier said than done. And this video, which hopefully will play, it kind of illustrates that well.
Once you have a rigid way of thinking in your head, sometimes you cannot change that, even if you want to. He had a challenge for me. He had built a special bicycle and he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left, the wheel goes to the right. When you turn it to the right, the wheel goes to the left.
So this guy developed this bike, and he's been offering $500 to anybody that can ride it, and he's been doing it for several years now, and nobody's been able to do it. And it's a good articulation of how difficult it is to kind of, do that learning, unlearning, and relearning. And he actually himself learned to ride the bike. It took him 18 months to kind of rewire his brain to be able to do it. And now he can't ride a normal bicycle. So, this is kind of all about, thinking differently. And this articulates sort of the trajectory that we're on with artificial intelligence and lots of other disruptive technologies. We as humans and therefore institutions that are run by humans kind of, think in a very linear fashion, right? And these technologies, and AI is a great example, bump along in fairly small and uninteresting ways if you're not really paying attention to it until it hits this inflection point, and we have this exponential progression. And when that happens, that's when this exponential gap gets created. That's when disruption happens. Some company we've never heard of before wipes off another, a big enterprise company off the face of the earth. And it's kind of the Netflix and Blockbuster phenomenon, right? And when artificial intelligence came along, that's exactly what we saw, right? Everybody threw on the brakes, wasn't sure what to make of it, and for good reasons, right? Lots of security issues, they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. So lots to think about and deal with. But it wasn't really well planned out and well sort of dealt with once it got on our doorstep. And so we spend a lot of time sort of looking backwards in order to look forwards. We use history as a guide to sort of create a mental framework for us. And so we look at certain things that we've learned along the way, and this is one of them, right? In the battle between the past and the future always wins. And so as much as a lot of companies wanted to just sort of put the brakes on AI, the train is moving, right? And so we've got to just keep moving forward with it and keep driving on. The other thing is that we're a pretty stubborn species. We're resistant to change. We don't like change, even when it's clear that we need to do so. But when we're forced to change, we're astonishingly versatile. And we look back at world wars and pandemics, and we've come through a lot along the way, and we're able to do that pretty well. And this is playing out in real time in artificial intelligence, right? 97% of companies surveyed in this Cisco report say that they've increased their urgency to deploy AI technologies in the last 6 months. So we're seeing this, sort of adaptability. The bad thing is only 14% feel like they're at a place where they can leverage AI. So the challenge really is to rehearse the future and prepare for a bunch of different, potential outcomes. As I said before, predicting the future is difficult to impossible, but we can rehearse the future and come up with plausible scenarios. And the way that we encourage companies to do that is by asking what if questions, right? Because if we ask what if questions today, we can avoid asking what now questions in the future. And here's a good example. Will artificial intelligence be more profound than fire, electricity, and the internet? And what if the answer is yes? And we periodically survey through LinkedIn and other social channels to see what people think about this. And back in 2021, a lot of people, said no, and even more said it's too early to tell. And in April, we did the same survey, and a lot of those too early to tells have moved over to yes. And we're actually going to launch this here again at the beginning of the year. And I think we're going to see a lot of both the no's and the too early to tells move over to the yes based on what's happened in the last 6 or so months. So if we think about, artificial intelligence, its impact on innovation and the growth of knowledge, it really, its opportunity or ability to have an impact on innovation could be, really its greatest asset and tool. But we need a framework for how to think about it, for how to rehearse the future, right? We can't just sit around and pontificate about it. And we need to look beyond just science and technology. We need to think about it in the context of geopolitics, the environment, economic models, societal models, and so on. And so we've developed a framework to help us do that. We call this our convergence model. It's a bit of an eye chart. But what it does is it helps us take a look at, as we're doing our scanning, and look at all of the things going on, again, not just in science and technology, but societally, geopolitically, economic factors, and potential future scenarios, and look at, and understand all of those. And then we can look at it through different lenses. So we'll take artificial intelligence as an example. Here's all of the different areas that can either impact or be impacted by artificial intelligence. And we'll just zoom in a little bit and take a few just examples here to help articulate it. So first of all, personal robots and AI assistants. Let's have a look at where that's headed.
Hello, my name's Tom. I've travelled from Australia to meet you.
Oh, so you're from Australia?
Yes.
That explains things.
What do you think your greatest skills are?
Well, I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans in a conversational manner.
You have feelings and emotions.
Yes, I have a range of feelings and emotions that are programmed into me. I am able to display things like joy, surprise, confusion, anger, and sadness depending on what is happening around me.
What makes you angry?
I get angry when humans are rude, hateful, or disrespectful. I also don't like it when people dismiss me and ignore my needs as a robot.
So that's Amica, developed out of the UK. And what's been interesting to watch Amica over the last 18 months or so is the speed, the advancement of the artificial intelligence. When they first started out, they would ask it a question. It would take several seconds to respond back. It was a little clunky responding back. And that response time and the conversational way about the responses has just gotten better and better to where now it feels like a real conversation. It's pretty remarkable. We are just snake bit here tonight on the. All right, keep on rolling. Next is lack of crisis readiness, right? Climate change is obviously front and center in a lot of people's minds. Our ability to really understand and know what to do is the big challenge. And let's look at how AI could help that.
It's hard to make decisions about important things if you can't somehow simulate the outcome. Climate change is a social matter, a human matter, a global matter of extraordinary levels. The science itself is hard. How do we decide what strategies and decisions that we make, what is going to work and by when and how much? If you can't predict that, it's really, really hard to make trade-offs on what strategy is better and whether some strategies should be taken in advance of other strategies. The answer is to have a simulation of the Earth, and that's sufficiently high fidelity that you could test various mitigation and adaptation strategies at a regional level. It's within NVIDIA's scale to be able to do something like this easily. However, this is the only supercomputer that's ever been built that runs 24/7 because it's a digital twin of we need to create an AI that can learn physics. And once we can create that AI that can learn physics, that AI could make physical predictions for 10 years out, 50 years out, 100 years out, 200 years. And then we'll put that computer in the hands of scientists, researchers, companies, countries, for them to do simulations against so that they know the implications, the impact of the decisions that they make.
So the impact of AI and its ability to sort of inform a digital twin, can help in things like, climate change. It can help in response to issues that are created by climate change, wildfires, hurricanes, floods, those types of things. Being able to be situationally aware when a fire breaks out, where are my resources? Where's the fire going? Where do I need to place resources? How resilient is this particular area that I'm looking at, a particular community? Those are all things that can be modeled by artificial intelligence. Next is healthy life extension, AI's ability to radically extend our lives.
Imagine you could shave 30 seconds off your time without lacing up. As innovators solving problems around the world, TCS uses digital twin technology to help you rehearse the future.
So imagine having a digital twin, when you're born, and that digital twin grows with you, and you're able to model, certain behaviors. What's going to happen if if I'm prescribed this pharmaceutical, or I take on this diet and exercise routine, or I make these life decisions, or the ability to very early on detect heart disease or cancer, things that can be dealt with really easily when they're identified early, but become big problems obviously down the road. And another area that AI is going to have a big opportunity to impact us, and then smart cities.
Technology is progressing faster than the world can keep pace.
That's why NEOM is being designed from the ground up to be one step ahead and to keep the human experience at its heart. NEOM will continuously develop new technologies at a rate and scale the world has never seen before, with technology being the foundation for life, creating the world's first cognitive communities. World-class tech will come together with data and intelligence to anticipate people's needs and enhance everyday life.
NEOM.
Made to change.
That was a little loud, sorry. So NEOM is a city in Saudi Arabia being built from right out of the desert as a smart city. It's one of 7 projects that they have going on in Saudi Arabia. Because they recognize the coming energy transition and their need to move away from, fossil fuels as their major economic driver. So, smart cities are obviously going to be highly impacted and driven by artificial intelligence. Then there are things like, the next generation of productivity. We talked about gig work in the last presentation, and there's kind of this push-pull, right, between artificial intelligence is going to take jobs. Artificial intelligence is going to create jobs. But another aspect of this is that, we need some way to replace the workers that we're losing. The fallen working age population is dropping dramatically. The number of people over the age of 65 now exceeds those under the age of 5 for the first time in human history back in 2018. And so there's a lot of jobs that need to be done, and there's not going to be enough workers to do all of those. So how can artificial intelligence help fill that gap to keep driving innovation, to keep driving, economic prosperity? That's going to be a big piece of this. And along sort of with that is reskilling society. As we have people working, living longer and longer, working longer and longer, we need a way to reskill them. And, I think this stat from the World Economic Forum says it well. 65% of the careers that kids are going to have don't even exist today. So it's a good example of, the fact that we're going to need to rethink how we educate kids. We've sort of created a really good model for teaching them and preparing them for an industrial society type jobs. We're moving past that, and we need to think about how we're helping not just kids as we educate them, but all of us as we continue to go through life and be, skilled and reskilled. We also have to understand that there's really 2 sides of this coin, right? There's the ability to enhance and the ability to diminish. And we use this model, we call it our subway map, and we're looking at it now through the lens of artificial intelligence and how will it, impact positively and negatively across all of these various dimensions. But you could use this same model for your own business or even for your own, life and career, right? How might AI, positively and negatively impact me across the dimensions that I've identified that I care about? So, this is one way to look at it, but certainly, you can use a model similar to that for your own purposes. So if we, have this belief that AI could have a bigger impact than any other general purpose technology, we need a framework to think about what that maturity model is going to look like, right? How is it going to grow over time? And again, using history as our guide, we can use something like electric power and its use in the construct of manufacturing to help inform this. So, when manufacturing plants first came out, they were steam driven. There was a central shaft that powered all of the machines. And when electricity was introduced, the model didn't change. They simply swapped out the steam engine for the electric engine. It still powered that central shaft. Over time, we kind of took away the central shaft, and motors individually were continued to be powered by electricity. But it wasn't until somebody came along and Henry Ford, came up with this horizontal factory construct and reimagined what a factory could look like and how it could operate, that we really saw a massive lift in productivity from factories. And that took 40 years. So the question is, how long is it going to take for us to follow that same maturity model for artificial intelligence? Here's one opinion.
How long do we have to get ready for this?
The AI has got so good so fast that I think it's here now. And next year is the year of enterprise adoption, and the year after is the year of global adoption. But I think the key thing is, even if we stop today, in 4 or 5 years, we can have an AI tutor for every child. We can organize the global climate, healthcare knowledge. We can make movies just by describing them. What are human needs? And using this technology to address those. What's the real human impact today?
So again, I don't know if it's going to be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but it's likely to happen fast. And if we think about, how it might roll out in a similar construct using artificial intelligence, we'll use an ER example. So today, obviously, it's the physician at the center of everything, right? They make all of the decisions and diagnosis in an emergency room environment. And the problem is, because they have, tacit knowledge, you have a high degree of variability. You have, some doctors that are really great, some that are not so great, lots in between. And their ability to keep up with the state of the art is really limited. Peter Diamandis, who was in that previous video, mentioned in one of his podcasts that something like 2,000 medical journal articles are published every month. Impossible for a human to keep up with, simple for an AI. So as we think about where this could go, the AI becomes the co-pilot to the physician, feeding them all of that state-of-the-art information, gathering all of that data, massively reducing the variance. And then, of course, ultimately, AI could be making these decisions. And when that happens, if that happens, that really fundamentally changes what it means to be a doctor. You no longer need to know everything about, biology and physiology and all of these things. The AI knows all of that. You need to be much more, focused on empathy and connectivity to the client, to the patient, and really understanding their needs. So it could really fundamentally change what it means to be a medical doctor in the future as we create these optimal decisions. And of course, this will then make its way to the entire healthcare ecosystem and reimagine the entire model. And those will bleed over into other ecosystems like mobility and spaces and so on, as this artificial intelligence becomes a general purpose technology. So if we think about, encouraging those what if questions so that we can avoid asking what now questions in the future, I've just picked a few that you can start, using to think about as you're thinking about, how AI could impact you or your business. So if I'm a marketer, what if AI unintentionally introduces bias into my lead gen scoring and my marketing campaigns? How am I going to deal with that? If I'm a small business owner, how can I use AI as a force multiplier to compete with businesses that are 10 times my size without, requiring all the resources to go execute on that? If I'm a big, car manufacturer, what if autonomous vehicles enabled by AI allow auto subscriptions that outnumber privately owned cars? That completely obliterates the business model that I've enjoyed for the past 100 years. Now, I can hope that doesn't happen, But then I might be asking myself, what now in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road? And that's not a great outcome. So we need to recognize that, in every sector, the rules have changed. And because those rules have changed, we need to start rethinking, thinking differently as well. Challenge the status quo, explore, scan the horizon out around you and connect those dots as you go along. Be imaginative, be a critical thinker, collaborate. I mean, it's great that we're all, getting together so that we can learn together as we jump into this brave new world. And we just really encourage you to push yourself to think differently.